Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Silo Gozan, and I'm the Cloud Product Manager. Also with me today, Victor Gershgo, our Innovation Research. Today, Victor, we will discuss about accelerating builds from hours to minutes with Azure DevOps and IncrediBuild Cloud. IncrediBuild and Microsoft go way back together. I think mostly about the famous integration bundled inside Visual Studio. And today we will show you how IncrediBuild Cloud connect the dots between Azure DevOps, Azure, and Visual Studio Build Tools to deliver significantly faster. And before we will start, we have a very, very special guest here today. And I would like to introduce you to the fabulous Jessica Dean. Jessica, are you with us today?
I am. Hi, my name is Jessica Dean, and I'm a senior cloud advocate for Microsoft. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. Thank you for being here today. Jessica is, as she mentioned, is the senior cloud developer advocate for Microsoft, focusing mainly on Azure infrastructure, DevOps, and OSS. Jessica had tons of experience, especially in the open source, and today we will be focusing on a very famous open source platform, the Chromium. Before we will start, just a bit about IncrediBuild in a nutshell. IncrediBuild is the market leader in software development acceleration with more than 2 decades of leadership in the acceleration technology, 200,000 users in 1,100 enterprises trust IncrediBuild to accelerate their builds, tests, and other big compute workloads. Our customers come from any vertical and cover all fields, be it pure code compilation, heavy workload like rendering, code analysis, AI training, compression. Well, you get the picture. I think the main thing that Victor and I bump in when we are talking with customers, go to conferences back all the days before the corona, is that customers and everyone just hate to wait. Developers who wait for builds to finish during most of their day are naturally trying to avoid it and pushing any heavy building to run overnight. Victor is very familiar with customers pushing everything to the nightly build. Running just a nightly build turns into a DevOps disaster. You know, everyone is talking about the shift left while still doing the nightly build, the long builds. And you know, these things happen that eventually continuous integration is just a mantra. You don't do the shift left. Also, this sluggish way of working takes away the agility that developers, the DevOps guys persona, need in making multiple announcements, big bug fixes, test iteration to make sure the product is still in high quality. So all in all, the developers, machine, or the CI build nodes become such a critical bottleneck in the company ability to execute. Waiting is one of the most annoying parts of a developer. You trigger a build which can take minutes, some takes hours. For short builds of 20 minutes, you know, Victor, you can grab a coffee, check emails, talk with your colleagues. But what happens if those builds happen 5 or 6 times every day? From 1 hour build, you just wait to run it at the night, which means that in the morning, you are ready to accept any impersonations since you had one chance. So from a business point of view, the long process are the less like you run often. You will see less code fix cycles, less code analysis, less integration, and a very limited agility in releasing with intent of quality and timeline. And we see this all over the place. The need for CPU power is in constant growth. code base keep growing, graphics, especially in the gaming, becomes more complicated. UI, for example, in the automotive and embedded devices get more complicated. Data processing. For example, we saw a large movement from the financial services, automation, AI, and things get more complicated and need more CPUs in order to avoid weeks-long coffee breaks. So before we will jump to the demo, I think this is a good time to stop and to ask Victor what he planned to show us today.
So before we jump right into the demo, I wanted to sort of give a very recent example, a user story that would helped with acceleration. So we had a big company come to us and talk about accelerating their pipeline. And their pipeline was taking somewhere in the lines of 200 minutes per build. And for various reasons, they were locked into using two core machines. So this obviously brought in a large amount of challenges. Developers couldn't run a full build. They couldn't. This is an open source project. They were using managed agents. So the iterations were unbelievably long. Developers didn't get immediate feedback. The amount of sort of context switching, where you put your current work to build so you can check it later, and you go to work on a different bug on a different code base, and then after 2 hours you need to switch. And if you broke something in the dependency tree, it was just a very messy way to work. So we managed to, by connecting more Azure resources onto their machines, which we'll get into in a few minutes how we did that, we managed to reduce their build time substantially from those over 3 hours to, I believe, to somewhere in the lines of 15 minutes. And this is going to be, it's not the same code base that we will be showing working with today, but it's very, very similar. It's very comparable. So before we move on to discussing how IncrediBuild works, what I will do now, just to have a small illustration, I will start a pre-configured pipeline. Yeah, we'll get to the screen sharing in a sec. I've just started a pre-configured pipeline, and hopefully we'll see the results of what we're running right now in several minutes. Could you show the slide? Oh, the next slide on the way that IncrediBuild works.
How IncrediBuild works?
Mm-hmm.
Second. Yeah.
So very quickly about the way IncrediBuild works. IncrediBuild is a software solution that you install on your machine, and you install it on as many machines as you want in the organization. It allows those machines to pool their resources together and allow for CPU-bound workloads to be accelerated across multiple machines in a seamless manner to the end user, whether it be a developer, an artist. It's especially powerful when coupled with cloud nodes, because the scaling capabilities, the amount of resources you can receive from the cloud can be quite substantial beyond what local resources users usually have. IncrediBuild is very good at breaking up common workloads like Visual Studio builds and assigning each machine its own workload. One of the interesting parts about our technology here is that you don't need to manage those machines. You don't need to create them inside of the cloud. You don't need to install anything on the machines. You don't need to have your source code there. You don't need to have your compilers there. IncrediBuild is going to take little chunks of the work from, in this case, a dev machine, from the laptop, from the desktop. It's going to package them into a minimal virtual environment and run on the remote machines from the side of the process. Everything is very, very transparent. The process thinks it runs on the local, on the regular machine. That's our technology in a nutshell. Jessica, do you have any questions so far?
Going off mute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I don't think I have any questions. I think it would be nice to kind of start visualizing this and seeing it in action, just so we can kind of put a face to everything, so to speak.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen in 1 second. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Second.
Can see it now.
Okay, so this is a build. This is a pipeline that I've just run, and we're going to get back to it very shortly. So at first, I wanna start by talking for a second about the setup here. And what we have is Azure DevOps pipelines, which is connected to a self-hosted agent where we have the Chromium source build code. And this agent is onboarded to IncrediBuild Cloud, which allows this agent to automatically request more resources from Azure, so that creating 1 mega instance with we have 3 here, but actually we have 4 machines connected, 464 machines connected to it. Going to the pipelines. Let's say that we have a very, very basic pipeline. So one of the steps would clean the Chromium source, and the second step would build this source. These are connected. These are connected to our self-hosted agent. And by the way, you could do it. You could do it with a managed agent. You can do it with a self-hosted agent. Jessica, I defer to you here to explain a little bit about the difference and ways to configure.
Yep, I'm just requesting control.
Sure.
Great. Okay, so yeah, within Azure DevOps, which was the artist formerly known as Visual Studio, you can go into your build pipeline and you have what's called an agent pool. So right now we're just using the default agent pool, which is a private agent pool that Victor set up previously, but we also have hosted agents. So if you click this little manage, it opens in a new tab and it actually takes you into your agent pools. So you can see the various different agents that Victor set up. Here's his demo GPU. If we go back up to the top level of just agent pools, you'll see Azure pipelines. And these are essentially computers that are provided to you from Microsoft. They can run Windows, Mac, Linux. They can do various versions of Linux and Mac for testing for your build and release pipelines. So if we drop down into Azure pipelines, you will be able to see any jobs that we previously ran using that pool. Pool is kind of like a collection. If we close this and go back to the build pipeline, and we were to, let's say, click on Azure pipelines, from there, you would then be able to choose the agent specification, the different versions of Mac OS, the different versions of Ubuntu, and then the different versions of Windows. If you just want Windows 2019, or you need Visual Studio 2017 with Windows 2016. In today's case, we are going to use the default agent pool, which is the hosted agent that Victor set up previously.
Okay. So that agent, as we said, it has the Chromium source code, some build tools installed. I think that we're using the default one of the default images here, which is no, I think we installed the build tools and the source code on the agent. So these two commands are sent by the pipeline to the agent install, and we're gonna, as we launched the build previously, the build is already running on that agent. Now, if we hop over, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I think I'm sharing the wrong, not entirely the can you see the build monitor, the remote desktop?
No, I'm seeing
I see Azure DevOps.
Azure DevOps, yeah.
Okay, just one second. So, okay, so let's finish up here first, and then we'll hop over onto the machines to see how things look inside. So, whatever your regular pipeline is, integrating IncrediBuild is unbelievably easy. Basically, you can take your build step and either modify the build command slightly, or disable it and add an IncrediBuild build step. And all you need to do to add it is just you create an agent job. You add IncrediBuild, and you can add one of our command line interfaces. I've done that beforehand, so we can look at a configured one. Basically, you just take the command line that you would usually use to run your build and add it to our plugin. And that's pretty much it from the pipeline side. You would then, on the agent itself, you would need IncrediBuild installed, and let me share that part. Just a second.
I was just going to ask, how hard is it to set up the agent?
So setting up the agent is it's very easy. I'm going to share my entire screen. So I'm going to do it on my own machine. Let's run the installer.
Maybe until the installer, Victor, can you summarize the Azure DevOps part, what you did?
Yeah, we're the Azure DevOps part. So we just disabled our usual build command, and we substituted it with an IncrediBuild action inside of Azure DevOps. That's basically all you need to do on that end. And it doesn't matter, you don't need any special integration with your previous steps or steps that are using artifact publishing. all the other parts of the pipeline are going to be absolutely the same.
Mhm.
So that's the only change you need to do in the pipelines area.
Cool. Okay.
So on the agents itself, we would see you would download an installer for IncrediBuild, and just to show you guys, it's a very simple installer. It's sort of a next kind of thing. It's actually updating for me because I had IncrediBuild installed right now. But you can see that the installation process is very trivial. It takes several minutes to finish, but it's a UI installer such as you're used to if you ever install anything like wrapped in an MSI. And that's pretty much it. As soon as we have the installer ready, again, I'm doing this on my machine. Let's hop over to the actual agent that we saw. Okay, hope you can see the RDP right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Before we go on though, are there any questions about the pipeline modification? So if we go back.
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay.
Let's see. And let me see if in meeting chat I think is internal, but if I go in and take a look at questions, I don't see any. If anyone does have any questions, there should be a little question mark with like a chat bubble for Q&A, and you can pop those in the live event chat and we'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, so Charlotte, let me know if there are.
Okay.
So let's hop over into the agent and have a look at IncrediBuild comes with several elements, and what we're looking right now at is the coordinator monitor. And the coordinator monitor is sort of a central node for IncrediBuild that allows all the other that sort of orchestrates the conversation between all of the machines, which machine is helping which. The coordinator is the one responsible for asking additional resources from Azure.
A very frequent question that we get is does the coordinator participate in the workload?
So the coordinator machine doesn't have to participate in the workload, but if you install an agent component next to it, it can. It's up to the user's discretion. If the coordinator machine is one with substantial resources and substantial amount of cores, we do recommend adding it as a machine that would help help other machines as well.
Okay.
So let's explain what we're seeing here. So here we can see the machines that are static machine, which is called demo GPU. And this machine is a single machine on the network. Although we're talking about what we have here is on-premises machine, this is a machine hosted in Azure as well. And you might have like a whole list of machines here, some on Azure, some on premises, and all of them can work together and sort of help each other. And right here below, we can see cloud machines, which are machines that IncrediBuild provisioned because the workload that we were trying to run on demo GPU is just too much for this machine to handle. Okay, and we can see that these machines, we can see at the CPU speed, each of these machines has 64 cores. These machines, it's important to understand that these machines are going to be running inside of your tenant, inside of your Azure account. So if we hop back for a second and we have a look at the resource group, we can see the 4 machines that are currently helping demo GPU, and these 4 machines are also located inside of our Azure account. Okay, these machines are usually stopped. They are turned on by the coordinator, or if they're not provisioned, they are provisioned and turned on and turned off by the coordinator automatically, based on the workload that is present in the grid. So far, so good. Okay. So these machines are currently, as I said, helping the demo GPU, and I think we can switch to the build visualization. Okay. All right. So actually, I can see based on the icon here, I can see that the build has already finished. So you remember, we started building Chromium at the start of this at the start of the webinar, and I don't know how many of you had the chance to try to build Chromium. This is quite a substantial build, and at the moment we finished the build in 16 minutes for this run. Okay. So how was this achieved? What we can see here, the demo GPU machine actually has 6 cores. Each of the lines is a CPU core. And what IncrediBuild did is provisioned 256 cores to assist with this build. So you can see, like, we can keep scrolling and scrolling, and this is a very nice and scalable build that can utilize a very it's very optimized. Okay, so we can see that we had, well, actually with the local 6 cores, we had 262 cores participating in the build. And just for comparison, we obviously didn't want to do it throughout the webinar, but just for comparison, I'm going to show you, let's minimize this. And I'm going to show you a standalone build, which is, we ran it through IncrediBuild, but not utilizing any helper cores. And on this machine, this build, we're just going to bring it back to scale. So when just building on demo GPU without the help of the other agents, what we can see is it took 5 hours, 43 minutes. Now, this is a factor of 20 reduction. So it's 20 times faster than building it just on this machine.
Victor, on the right-hand side, can you click the same button so that we can see, no, on the right-hand side of the other build, the one where we use IncrediBuild? Yeah, so we can see it side by side. So we went from 5 hours and almost 44 minutes down to 16 minutes and 11 seconds.
Yes. So this is 20 times. This is 20 times faster. Now, for many companies, this is a game changer, because there are companies which this allows switching to a per commit build trigger. So you can actually not bundle a lot of commits before performing a build, just because of the time constraints, and you can have feedback from your CI department on each of the commits, where you are absolutely sure what broke the build, what didn't break the build. You can stop hopping between multiple issues that you're trying to fix, and actually the developer can focus down the issues they are currently working on. I mean, I don't have to tell you what you could do with sort of 5.5 hours of your time, and this is basically what you're gaining here. Now, one extremely important aspect when talking about this is think about like, I actually can have as a developer, I can use a rather modest instance to write my code, because writing the code is not a CPU intensive task. So I can have a small instance that's running, but whenever I need to scale up, it's just there. It's just there. It's as easy as installing a small client, configuring it to use the cloud, and that's it. You know, there you go. Have your 5.5 hours to, maybe drink coffee during that time, but like that's way too much coffee in my opinion.
There's no such thing as way too much coffee.
Jessica, how frequent do you see customers bound to the 2 cores node and not scaling too much higher?
I don't know that I actually have very many conversations about the GPUs or nodes as far as how many customers use. I know that a big ask has been how can we increase velocity and increase that value delivery? How can we make our builds faster? That's usually where we kind of start at from the top, is what can we do to increase our performance and our velocity?
So whenever
it seems like with IncrediBuild, if I think of this in the concept of DevOps, and DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users, and our end goal is to continuously deliver value, we want to do so with velocity, with precision, of course, we want to make sure that we're not just rushing things out the gate, so we want to still make sure that we're doing our due diligence, but the faster the builds run, the faster we can do our checks. And that's when IncrediBuild kind of comes in.
No, absolutely. We see something very similar with most of the customers that we work with, is the velocity, the agility that that DevOps brings gets multiplied by IncrediBuild. Yeah. So let's talk.
Yeah.
So I wanted to briefly so most of the people watching the seminar are developers, and I wanted to stress one point. IncrediBuild is not a build system. IncrediBuild is something that works jointly with your build system. So it doesn't really matter if you're building using MS Build, if you're building through the Visual Studio IDE, if you're using CMake, or in this case, in our example, we were using the Ninja build system, the native build system for Chromium project. What IncrediBuild is something that works together with the build system. It listens to the build system. The build system is managing the dependencies of the task, what needs to get built, when it needs to get built. What IncrediBuild does, it takes those tasks from the build system, packages them with the correct compilers and sources, and knows how to utilize the grid just to help things finish faster. So essentially, what you get in the end is absolutely the same product as if you were building everything on this very same machine, right? And this really opens up. Actually, even build systems, we have users that integrate IncrediBuild with build systems that we're not aware of, and it's as easy as writing a simple profile XML file that instructs IncrediBuild. You see this process, this is your build system. You see this process, this is the compiler. It's pretty trivial to configure.
Jessica, since the corona, we have, I think, on a daily basis, customers asking about how to use IncrediBuild during the working from home, and I guess Victor and I will answer the IncrediBuild part. But it's very interesting from my side, at least, if you have recommendations about customers, about developers, about DevOps personas who moved from their very fast internet in the office to the home usage. Is there a specific configurations, maybe settings, maybe tips and tricks you can advise for those customers who are now sitting at home but running their pipeline in Azure DevOps?
I think one of the benefits of running your pipeline in Azure DevOps is then you're not at the limitations of your home network, right? It's not as though you have your servers and everything set up at home. The limitations within home tend to be more day-to-day tasks, like having team meetings and having to do video calls, and there's too much pixelation on the video calls. Or for those of us who are working at home with children, we now have kids who come in. And I mean, Microsoft Build was last week and I was doing a Q&A there. My kids were knocking on the door with a super important question of, can I have ice cream? Like that's, and here's the thing, like that's part of our world today. And I think that we just kind of accept it. The other thing to remember is that because we're now in this, we're working from home, but our kids are also home, they're not going to school, there's a lot of distractions. So the more that we can put in place from a work perspective that simplifies our job and simplifies our tasks, so we're not having to do more or work harder, the easier our work-life balance and our peace will be. So any system that we can implement that's going to allow us to continue to deliver, granted with an understanding that delivery times may vary because teams are stressed, teams are taxed, everyone's attention spans are all over the place. But as long as we can have systems in place that still allow us to deliver and meet customer expectations, especially those customers who are delivering and supporting COVID-19 efforts and fighting COVID-19, that's where I think that that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a lot of our customers, obviously, move to work from the build, and different companies are tackling the challenge from the developer perspective in a different way. And some customers are working in the office. A lot of customers are moving to the cloud. We see a lot of sort of desktop environments coming alive on the cloud, and this is really the optimal way to get access to resources inside of Azure. However, we had a lot of customers also that sort of worked on their machines at home and used IncrediBuild to scale up to Azure, to scale up to the cloud, and actually not be limited by the very resources, the small amount of cores they have at home. So we can't really do anything about the ice cream or the door, but like we can solve at least one of the problems.
I think the COVID will accelerate the move to the cloud. We see many customers, and from my experience in my previous positions, customers keep telling, yeah, we are moving to the cloud. We have a 5 years plan to move to the cloud, but they are still on-prem based. And we see, especially in IncrediBuild, a very large movement to the cloud. Customers understand that they are going to work from home for at least till the end of the year, some of our customers, and they are moving some of their workload to the cloud, and then shifting some of the DevOps pipeline also to the cloud. Those who were already in the cloud extend their work in the cloud. So I think the entire thing will extremely accelerate the shift to the cloud from the on-prem.
I agree. We do have a question in the chat that says, is there a limit to the core amount / machines that will be created automatically in the cloud?
Yes. So when you have a coordinator set up, I'm actually going to share my screen to show screen. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the onboarding page. Once you have your coordinator set up, what you need to do is go to this page, select Scale to the Cloud, Azure, and provide. So there are two ways here. You can provide your administrator login for your Azure account, so IncrediBuild can configure the permission that it needs, or you can do a slightly longer process to give IncrediBuild permissions very granularly. I have trouble with this word. So we're gonna choose the easier way. We're gonna go with the permissions. Okay, we're choosing one of my accounts, approval. Oh, 1 second. We're going to choose the second account and hope for well. Okay, and the second account has it. Great. Well, obviously things cannot go without without a hitch. So I'll tell you what you're supposed to be seeing here. So basically this page, which probably does not load because of the multiple extensions that I have. Let's try it again. Okay. So this is the onboarding page, and it's quite simple. What you have here, you fill in some details, some first name, last name, emails, and company name. This is the form that connects that allows us to connect the coordinator to your Azure account. And in this form, you can define. I'm going to skip to the interesting part. You can define the types of instances that you want IncrediBuild sort of to provision within your account, and you can define how many seconds those machines are going to be kept alive even when they don't have work. Let's say that you want to avoid the overhead of turning off and turning on the machines, so like the machine can stay awake for a while. And the most important part here is the total core limit. You are in full control of how many concurrent cores you want to provision. I provision 256 cores, but you can provision 32 cores, 64, or whatever it fits within your budget and allowance.
Also, since part of the onboarding, we create a dedicated resource group. We saw customers inside their Azure account put limitations on this resource group. It could be course limitation or budget with alerts. So Azure is very equipped to handle those kind of limitations.
Yes. So this would be the amount of cores, and you can actually configure the machines on another level. You can decide how many machines would be pooled machines. We call pooled machines. We call the machines that we turn off instead of destroying when they're not needed. So the amount of machines that you would like to keep pooled. We do this mainly for performance reasons, because we see that turning on a machine is usually a shorter process than provisioning it from scratch. So I hope that answers your question. Do we have other questions as well?
That was the only one that I saw.
Yeah, we have more questions that customers asked us. I think we can move on to other questions not related to the IncrediBuild cloud. We have, at the beginning of this webinar, I'll talk about our long relationship with Microsoft, especially in the Visual Studio integration. This is also where we first met Jessica and other IncrediBuild fan, I can say, in Microsoft. So, Vito, just before we end this webinar, I think it's a good time to talk about the Microsoft and IncrediBuild integration and how Visual Studio customers can leverage IncrediBuild for the usage?
So there are many ways. That we integrate with Microsoft products specifically, and we were the first commercial third-party tool that was bundled in Visual Studio. I know there are many more today, but being the first was really fun and substantial project for us. You can work with IncrediBuild from within the Visual Studio ID. You can work with IncrediBuild within Azure DevOps. You can work with IncrediBuild if you have, an older infrastructure that you bound to. If you're working with TFS, if you're invested in a different CI system, you can still. In all of those cases, you can still leverage IncrediBuild with together with the cloud. Now, could we switch?
I don't think that you can see it very clear, so I will share the screen. Okay, now.
Yeah. So as I said, integrating IncrediBuild with an ID or integrating is a very sort of, let's say, loaded word. I think like configuring would be the more appropriate term here, because it's simply writing a textual configuration file in XML. So working with, we work with Visual Studio, we work with Android NDK, we work with many. We have a proven track record with many code bases and many build systems, and the development world is just too big and too wide to encompass everything. So, being part of the IncrediBuild team for 11 years, I still there doesn't go a month by where I don't hear about a new compiler or a new build system or a question. And it's really, really easy to configure IncrediBuild to work with them, because we designed our tool from the ground up to be tool agnostic, and scaling up to the cloud is not tool dependent. You can use any CI/CD. You can talk about unit testing, or you could talk about code analysis. You could talk about various building various game development engines, workloads, anything that is CPU bound and multi-process. The tool does need to adhere to a couple of prerequisites. So, it needs to be CPU bound, it needs to be multi-process, and be able to run in parallel. That's about it. If that's the case, if that's your tool, it doesn't matter if it's a compiler, a code analysis tool, or a data simulation that you wrote in Python. You can accelerate that with IncrediBuild using the Azure cloud.
I can say, Jessica, that I'm here 2 years, and still, I don't know, once a month we have a call with the customer, and I'm whispered to Victor, wow, he's doing that with IncrediBuild. Wow, this is, IncrediBuild is a generic tool, and we don't solve a specific problem, but the amount of time customers say, yeah, we have a multi-process workload, and we tried it with IncrediBuild, and this reduced our time from hours to minutes. It's not a cliche. We saw it many times in the automotive, in the manufacturing industry, especially, that customers take us to reduce simulations and so on. And also we see a vertical from the open source, indie developers, or guys who took an open source and a famous open source and trying to make it adjust to make it happen, to make it more on their side to take it. and they are low budget, and they're using maybe the freemium version of Azure, and of course not paying for almost anything on Azure DevOps. And also they're taking a very small package of IncrediBuild, but they are still getting the value, although it's minimum packages all over the place. They are still getting value. We are still making things much more easy for them. Imagine 4 guys sitting in a garage with 4 laptops, and this is all they have. They have an Azure account that they got in one of the conferences. Maybe they are students and so on. And they are working on a very heavy workload, and we manage, with the help of Azure, of course, to reduce the workloads, to reduce the time, and you know, make things much more faster.
So yeah, in conclusion, you know, if you have a 16-core or 4-core machine and you just add just one 4-core additional core machine, if your project is scalable, you don't always need 256 cores to see the benefit. Mm-hmm. You know, you can see it with several machines as well, as we see in many of the smaller studios that we work with.
Okay, so I think we are almost done. Time flies fast when you talk about IncrediBuild and Azure. Jessica?
I don't think I have any questions. I mean, I think every time I see incredible work, I'm just left almost speechless. Like, that was fast. What do I do with all my leftover time? Now I can regulate the ice cream consumption in the house. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I think that this is great. And as we talked about, while you said it doesn't solve one specific problem, I think it definitely enables a lot of solutions depending on whatever a customer's CI/CD system is. I mean, it gives a lot of potential. Most prominently, it gives the ability to scale as needed, and you can set the parameters. I think it's incredible. So if any customers who are watching this have questions, they want to get started, they want to kind of on-ramp, is there a link or a resource page or something they can go through for the call to action?
I think the best way to start is to go to IncrediBuild.com. Also, if they want to experience the cloud, also this is a very good way to start. They can download our freemium version. They can try the trial. I think IncrediBuild.com is the place to start.
Yeah, and if there are any specific questions or you need any help, get in touch with Israel as per the mail.
Yeah, I don't think they.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to see. But you can. There's a chat on the website, and our team will be happy to hop in and answer any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jessica. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, Victor, for this lovely demo and sharing your awesome knowledge. Thank you for being with us today. See you next time.
See you next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.